Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Retirement Cafe podcast. As you may know, aside from being the host of the Retirement Cafe podcast, I'm a chartered financial planner and a certified financial planner. And I specialize in helping people retire successfully at my boutique, family run retirement planning firm, MFP Wealth Management. Over the years, I've helped well over 100 couples plan for the retirement they desire and the retirement they deserve. And during this time, we've created a clear framework for what needs to happen for our clients to be able to retire with confidence, clarity, and choice about how they spend their retirement. We call this framework our Retirement Success Program, and it contains what we call 9 accelerators. These are the areas of planning we consider with each and every client when helping them plan for their retirement. So we decided to create a series of podcasts about these 9 accelerators to help you, our listeners, to identify any gaps in your own retirement planning. For more details on the topics I will cover during the series, head to the show notes for this episode on our website, theretirementcafe.co.uk. The first accelerator for planning a successful retirement is what I call life priorities. My wife and co-director, business partner Kathy, is joining me today to discuss this topic. So, welcome, Kathy.
Hello, it's great to be back. It's been, I think, a year since I was last on the podcast, last year's Christmas episode or New Year's episode. So today, though, I want to ask you a whole load of questions about life priorities. So shall we kick off?
Absolutely, and I'm sure it'll be another popular episode. I know the last time you were on, we got a lot of rave reviews. So I've had to keep you in the background all year. So otherwise, I take my limelight.
I'm not sure about that, but anyway, all right, brilliant. So this is obviously about the 9 accelerators of a successful retirement, and the first of those is life priorities. So tell me, why is this the first accelerator? Why are we talking about life priorities first?
Well, it's a big transition, retirement. Obviously not everyone just straightforward retire. People often kind of move into part-time roles, change their working patterns, take on voluntary work, take on non-exec director work. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on. But there literally can be some people who literally finish work one day and are retired the next. And sometimes that can happen by accident, i.e. they weren't expecting it, they get made redundant or early retirement or their health forces that on them. But it's just a massive transition and it's a massive shift. And ideally, even if that doesn't happen and you want to have a planned retirement, understanding what your priorities are going to be during this next stage of your life, I think is hugely important. And of course, then all the other things that we put around that actually are there to support, i.e., what is an important retirement to you.
So what's the risk of not taking a step back and thinking about what the priorities are for your life in retirement?
Well, I suppose, anything worthwhile, in my experience anyway, anything worthwhile has always taken a little bit of planning. Even if you decide you want to go on holiday next year, let's all hope that we can go on holiday next year. But if you'd like to go on holiday next year, you've got to kind of start to think, where do you want to go? What will it be like? What are you hoping to experience? What do you want to see? Who do you want to be with? Where do you want to where do you want to go? That will take some planning. Now, it is it's an old saying about in the retirement field that people do spend more time planning their summer holiday than they do planning their retirement. And you're going to be retired a long time. So understanding what a wonderful retirement would look like, I think, is hugely important.
So from your experience of working with lots of people and helping them plan their retirement, how much thought do you find that people have given to what a great retirement would look like for them?
Oh, it varies, and of course, everyone's individual. What they possibly focused on some key stuff. So one of the reasons they're with us, of course, is that they've come to discuss the numbers. They want someone to check in with. Most of our clients have got a bit of a clue what their retirement income is going to look like, but they then want a second opinion. So they want someone to look at that and kind of go, okay, how does this stack up? But then we started broadening that conversation out, and I say, so what does retirement look like for you? And they've got some ideas, they're hoping to do this and that, etc. But really, to have a real clear strategy, I don't believe most people have got that really nailed down.
Okay, so the majority of people haven't got a real clear plan as to what they want their retirement to look like.
No, I
Most
mean,
people.
we have a lot of tools, don't we? And some of them are their kind of what we call an ideal week, an ideal day, an ideal year of their retirement, and actually filling that out and having someone to facilitate that with them as well is particularly useful, I find.
So on to the process then. So, this isn't just a conversation really, is it, about what do you want your retirement to look like? There's actually a process behind that. What process do you use with the people that you work with?
So obviously, as we as we follow the Kinder Institute method of life planning. So what we're really trying to do, there's a chap called George Kinder who's known to be the father of life planning, and I'm actually one of his trainers now. And in essence, we're taking people through a very kind of particular process so that they can really narrow down what their priorities are. And has I think if you don't if you there's an old adage again, if you don't have a plan, you'll be part of someone else's plan. So and in fact, a number of retirees I've spoken to over the years who are feeling that they've never been so busy as they're not sure how they had time to work before. But they are doing lots of stuff which may not have been on their agenda, but all of a sudden it's everyone else's agendas.
So why do you feel that the Kinder process works?
Well,
Obviously,
let's give you
you've been using it for kind of 10 years now, haven't you? So
yeah.
what is it
So
about that is so successful?
so I think it's about a narrowing of focus. If we've got real clarity about what's important to us and what a fulfilling life would look like, then that's really helpful when we start to create all the other things around us. The financial strategy, the kind of planning work that we do. So if we understand, and again, from an advisor's perspective, if I really truly understand what a client's trying to achieve in their life, what a really fulfilled life would look like, that allows me to do better financial planning. If it's a bit vague and it's a bit kind of like, oh, well, I think I might want to do this and I might want to do that, but I'm not so sure. Can we just see? We can work with that, but it is helpful to have clarity about what a client wants to do.
And
Yeah.
can you share, without giving away any names, can you share any examples of people you've worked with over the years and things they've ended up doing in their retirement that perhaps they hadn't thought they would do or thought were important to them?
Yeah, people always just are amazing. Excuse me. I find them also inspiring, but people just got so many things that they want to do when you give them the opportunity to dream. Um, so we've had clients write books. We've had clients go on amazing trips around the world. We've had them take up new skills, learn new languages. Creativity often comes out. They get involved in art and music and entrepreneurship and giving back. And yeah, there's just too many stories to mention. But I think there's a there's a real benefit of just sitting with yourself and going, these are the things that I know. As you know, one of my questions would be, if you were 90 years old and you were sitting on your rocking chair um, on the rear patio with the sun coming down, and you were just reflecting back on your life, thinking, what an amazing time it was since I left work. What a fantastic, fulfilled retirement I've got. Um, I've had deep relationships with my family. I've felt I've contributed to my community. I've given back. I've travelled. I've learnt new skills. I've done more stuff. What a fantastic maybe 30-year period that has been. Um, that's my dream for all our clients, is for them to sit back at that moment in time and just go, wow, that really was a special part of my life.
And that does take some planning, doesn't it? It does take some thought process. And I think we plan a lot at other stages of our lives, don't we? We plan when we're going to buy a house, and some people plan when they're going to have a family, and other things like that. But perhaps yes, it's we don't go into so much detail when it comes to retirement, maybe.
I think when you've got a lot of time, you can drift.
Yeah.
And if you get up every day and you haven't really got a plan and a strategy, you'll drift.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not sure most people, if they were putting themselves forward into that 90-year-old spot when they're sitting in their rocking chair, reflecting back on their life, would have gone, oh, yeah, 30 years of drift. Really happy about that. I don't believe that's people's intention. Not from the people that I come across. This is not to the point. This is we're not replacing work. So this is absolutely about creating fulfillment. What is it do you want in your life that will give you real satisfaction, a real heartwarming feeling that you just going, you know what, that was just a really great part of my life. I had the time to do the stuff that I may kind of, you know, people are very unselfish. Amazingly, you wouldn't think that from all the news and everything that we hear in the world. But generally, I find people want to give so much. They care so much. The retirees I know are so involved in their families, in their grandchildren's family relationships, into their communities, into voluntary work. But to turn around and feel that this was the time that actually I gave something back into lots of people's. It could be money, it could be time, it could be energy, it could be expertise, it could be so many things. But there's a real sense of worth, I think, when you've helped other people.
And we've had quite a few podcast episodes, haven't we, over the last couple of years of clients or other people that we know who have told their stories of retirement. And so often the giving back comes up, doesn't it, as part of fulfillment and meaning, having meaning and purpose in those years.
It does.
Yeah.
And people may have an idea of what that does look like. They may have absolute clarity, but actually trying to get that woven into their retirement plan is the key work that we're doing. We're actually matching money and meaning and putting the
Yeah.
two together. And that's the crucial part of our work, I think, is facilitating the conversation, drawing out. Okay, so now understanding after listening to you deeply that these are your priorities. So let's see that this happens. And let's now look at the strategies that we can make sure that these things are in your life.
Absolutely. So, I like a process. So I'm going to take you back to the process and talk to us about question one. So there are three core questions, aren't there? There are three key questions in the Kinder approach to life planning. Obviously, there are lots of other approaches that people use, but in this particular approach, the Kinder Institute has three key questions. So take us through the first question.
Okay, so the first question, really, I'm going to just distill it down a little bit, but the first question is that you've got as much money to live the life that you want to live. Just you know how to worry about it. In fact, you don't need me, right? It's off the table. You've literally got a tap in the bathroom that you can go and you can open up every day, and there's money pouring out of it, and you can do whatever you want. And it's not gonna be turned off. If that was the case, how do you live your life? And I think that just allows people to expand. I know you and I have answered these questions on a regular basis, and it just allows you to kind of dream and to dream possibly without boundaries. And often, one of the biggest boundaries in our lives is the boundary created by money. So therefore, just removing that for just a few moments and just live into that dream is hugely beneficial. And people might say, oh, and I have had people say to me, yeah, well, this is just a daft question because it's not real. That doesn't, you know, Elon Musk didn't kind of go right. There isn't a electric car that can do this, that, everything else, etc., etc. He didn't start with that, right? It's not real. He started with, I wonder what it would be like if we had electric vehicles like this. Steve Jobs didn't kind of sit there and go, oh, I wonder what it would. I think they just need a really boring iPhone. There you go. No, he dreamt of like a whole computer in people's pockets that could do a million things. Put all the songs in their pockets, do all their communications, their emails, their apps. It's about just expanding your thought process and not starting with why we can't do stuff.
Great. So that's the first question, which is kind of getting people to think more broadly, think dream, and to just get lots of things out on the table that they've thought about, that they've considered that might be important to them. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So then you kind of go on to the second question, which starts to narrow the focus a little bit more.
It does. And this is kind of, very reflective of Stoicism and of reflecting on mortality, and I think it's kind of easier for people at retirement to start doing this because they get it. They've already lost people. So this question is about, if you only had 5 to 10 years left to live and you're going to be perfectly well up until the moment of your death, how would you live your life? What would you do? Would you change anything? And, there's another kind of old saying that I have a habit of repeating, but people often will say when I haven't got much time, and I'll say to them, you've got less time than you think. Because actually, there is an element of that we just go from day to day to day, and we're planning all this stuff all the time, and we have no idea when our mortality is coming. It could come tomorrow. It could, and if you're, just by the very nature, if you've got to kind of 55 or 60, first of all, you've done really well to get there, and that's fantastic, and hopefully you're in full health to be able to do so. But even if you're not, you are closer to death than hopefully a 20-year-old or a 5-year-old. So we don't give any guarantees in financial planning except death and taxes. And but actually really bringing it down and kind of going, if this really was true, you only had 5 to 10 years left to live, what would you do? And most people, off the back of that question, go, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to get that done, I'm going to deepen this relationship, I'm going to speak to them, I'm going to get my affairs in order. There's just so much that comes out of that question on that reflection of mortality. It provides an element of urgency, and it also allows the important stuff to bubble up and the less important to just drift down.
Absolutely. And I mean, you talk there about what would you do, but actually it's not just about what would you do, is it? It's deeper than that. What would you do? Yes, I'll get my affairs in order. I'll see these people, I'll do all these things that need to be done. But actually it's not just about the doing, is it? It's deeper than that on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I think so. And again, it brings all those. I think the doing is it provides a bit of. So there is a some practical stuff, but there is all those things of what have I now got chance to do, and one of the reflections. One of the questions I've often said to people when we're trying to help people prioritize or show them the importance of this question is, I say to them, how much money would you give to spend 1 hour more with a person that has left the planet, already gone? We've all lost, people close to us, etc. And if you could have just 1 hour more with that person, what would you pay? And everyone would just, everyone I've ever asked that question of goes, just, it's priceless. I pretty much give I don't know, a lot of money, a lot of my worth to just have one more hour with that person, and you just then reflect on that and go, okay, this question is not true, but not that we know it to be true. But if it was true, are the people that you need to reach out to, are the people you need to reconnect with, are the people you need to tell them that how much how important they are to you? Are there organisations that who helped you out as you started out in your life that you want to give back to? What are the deep concerns that you have? Is it environmental? Is it social? Is it is it family? Is it who is it and what is it? And it's those things that seem to really bubble up. Or I never wrote the book that I wanted to write. I never wrote the poetry. I didn't learn to play the piano. Um, I didn't sing in the choir. Who knows what it may be? But there's so many of those things that come out of that question.
So then we move to the real tearjerker, don't we? We move to like question 3.
Yeah.
So
I don't
about
think we're
question.
selling this at the moment. People aren't going to be thinking, I want to come and see Justin and Kathy to talk about this stuff. All they're going to talk to me about is death.
Well, it's so much more than that. But this is the one that really gets people to think and feel deeply, isn't it? The
Yeah.
third question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this time I'm going to be Dr. Doom again, and you're dying tonight. And I don't want to know what you're going to do between getting the knowledge and dying tonight. The great news is that you just pass away. You've had no it's just you turn out the lights and you're gone, which is probably a way all of us would like to go when it's our turn. But this is just that reflection. If that was true, what did you not get to do? Which we kind of hopefully we've also addressed earlier. But what did you not get to do? What are the things that you didn't accomplish? Uh, but probably the big question is, who did you not get to be? Uh, and I've had all types of responses to that question. I didn't get to be a mum. I didn't get to be the chief exec of something. I didn't get to have the career that I dreamt of as a youngster. I didn't learn that skill. I didn't see that things. I didn't help where I could have helped. Uh, I didn't build the bridges where I'd burnt them. It really does take people into that self-reflection zone. Uh, and the beauty of this question, of course, is not to be maudling over all the things that you didn't do or didn't get to become. It's really then to take all that information from the first two questions and the third, and then create a real vision of, okay, the beauty of this is that we've just played with these questions and we've reflected and we've learned and we've experienced the emotion of those questions and the things that we know that are important. And out of that becomes some clarity, some vision of what a wonderful life would look like. And this is what we hope that every one of our clients has. So that 30-year possible retirement could be longer, could be shorter, but absolutely to be inspired and enthused and have a most fantastic time. And therefore, if we know what all of those things that are important to that human being are, then of course we can create a massive vision for the future of to make sure that this is what's important to you. So let's see that this gets done. Yeah. So that's the result of that conversation. And you know this because we've done this work as well. It's kind of hard to do this on your own.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but it really helps if you can have this facilitated, um, because someone else can ask yet another question. So tell me more about that. What does that look like to you? If that was to happen, how would that be?
Mm.
And there may be things that you kind of go, well, someone wants to achieve something that can't be achieved. And so we have a real way of understanding or asking some further question about what the qualities of the dream would be. Because there are so many different strategies that people can employ to get to the qualities of their dream. So maybe let's say that I am. I'd love to write a book, but I can't. I just don't have the skills. Just don't have the ability. And then we investigate. So, what would it be like to write a book? What would the book be about? What's the thing that you want to? What's the message that you want to pass on to the world? Is it a novel? Is it some factual? Is it some information that you'd want to leave the world with? And how could that be possible? And people come up with other ways. They get ghostwriters, or they get editors, or they get help, or they dictate, or they come up with other strategies to do that. Things that they didn't realize that they could have done. There's so many different strategies to achieve what's important to people, and that's through the facilitated conversation to make sure that they have an inspired retirement.
Absolutely. And even sometimes it's even more challenging things, isn't it, that they didn't get to be. Like, I didn't get to be, not me personally, but someone may be coming up to France and say, I didn't get to be a mum.
Yeah.
And when you're 60, you probably can't, it's very difficult to really fulfill that dream. But again, understanding what being a mum would have delivered and how that would be and how that would feel, there are other things that can be brought into people's lives to give them that feeling and that experience, or as close as possible, aren't there?
Yeah.
So it's incredibly powerful in that sense.
Absolutely.
And so this obviously, you can see how this obviously feeds into the next stage of the work that you do with clients around on the actual planning side of things as well.
Yeah, well, so once you've got a vision, we need to create a strategy to achieve that, and that strategy could be a number of different ways. So that's very much depending. Very much depending on the means someone's got, the financial resources, the skills that they've got, the abilities they've got. But there are, it may be that I don't know. It could be that I want to learn. Let's say I want to learn French.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are my choices of learning French? And I bet our listeners have a million different ways that I could go and learn French. It could be an app, it could be some books, it could be some private tutoring, it could be going to live in France for a year, it could be there's a French family down the road, it could be taking in French students, it could be there must be, I bet there's so many ways that you could learn French.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are all strategies. But what we're really trying to understand is, what's the internal intrinsic motivation for me learning French? And if you did ask me that question, it would be like, well, I'd like to be as good as you when we went to France, because you can speak French, and that would be quite cool, rather than just relying on you all the time. Or it could be that I just want to go into a restaurant and order and converse with someone with the waiter or waitress in French. That'd me feel fantastic.
Yeah.
So lots of different strategies. What we're trying to understand is why it's important, and then show that and see how different ways we can bring that into the life. So your question about the being the mum thing I've had that a few times, and people have done lots of different things. We had one client who adopted.
Mm-hmm.
We've had clients who've fostered. We've had clients who've just got involved in schools and then become teaching assistants and become involved in voluntary groups. And people who've joined Childline and become counsellors. It's all about what are the values that they would have thought being a mum would have given them, and then how do we get some of those qualities into their life now?
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about how this is difficult to do on your own. Is there anything people can do on their own, or how should they go about finding somebody that could help them?
George Kinder has a website actually called Life Planning for You. We can put that in the show notes, so people can go through a kind of process on that is helpful. They also have the Kinder Institute have a list of financial advisors across the UK and across the world actually, who are trained in this work. So not only are they hopefully good financial planners, but they've also got these further skills to kind of match the two things. So there's a number of people that there. we've trained lots of advisors in this work on behalf of the Kinder Institute. So again, you can reach out to us, and we may be able to suggest or recommend someone in your local area who can help. So yeah, there's a number of ways to try and find people who will have hopefully a more meaningful conversation about your retirement than it's just about the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to kind of wrap up, if you had to leave one key message with the listeners about this topic, about life priorities, what would you say?
I still think it comes down to, if you don't have a plan, you'll be part of someone else's plan. And is that what you really want? This is possibly the one of the greatest opportunities of your life, when hopefully you've managed to save hard and well over a number of years. You've probably worked hard as well, and all of a sudden this is an opportunity to not have a daily grind, but actually to start doing the stuff that is really fulfills you and nourishes you. So you can reflect in 30 years' time to go, wow, that was just an amazing part of my life.
Brilliant. That's great. Fantastic. Well, that's this episode all wrapped up. The next episode in the series on the 9 accelerators for a successful retirement is all about lifetime financial forecasting. So take a listen out for that next episode.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Kathy. And hopefully you've found this episode interesting, and it gave you a few things to consider when it comes to planning your retirement or the next stage of your life. This first accelerator, working out what your priorities are in life, is relevant to anyone at any stage of their life. But I know how critical it is in making sure that our clients have a successful retirement. So, as Kathy said, next in the series of the 9 accelerators for a successful retirement is lifetime financial forecasting. So be sure to subscribe to catch that episode when it's released. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, then please leave a review on Apple Podcasts to help more people like you find us, or share this episode with someone you feel will benefit. So until next time, this is Justin King and Kathy King, helping you feel more informed in your retirement.